This is macOS Ken.
Software updates spoil hardware surprises, a monster upgrade for Apple shares, and more on last week's spyware notifications. It is Tuesday, the 18th of August, 2026. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Coveron. Safeguard your identity and save up to 76% off with code macOS at coveron.com/macOS. This show is also sponsored by Copilot Money. Your money beautifully organized. Keeping money organized used to be easier. You spent cash, wrote checks, maybe used a credit card. Once a month you get a couple of statements, balance the books, and you're good for another month. Now, you push a button and you've already spent money. Forget to cancel a subscription, you spent more money than you meant to. Can you imagine waiting a month to reconcile your finances the way money moves today? You don't have to, especially with Copilot Money. Copilot Money lets you keep track of all of your spending, from recurring charges to one-off shopping trips to that round of drinks you bought and forgot. Copilot Money tracks money coming in, money going out, where you stand on financial goals, and how your investments are performing. All of that in one place. They've got great apps for iPhone, iPad, and the Mac, or a fantastic, full-featured web experience. And all with your privacy in mind. With Copilot Money, there are no ads, no upsells, and your information is never sold. Right now, you can get 2 months free with code macOSKEN at copilot.money/macOSKEN. Recognized by Apple as a must-have finance app and as a smart way to save money, you can try it for no money with a 2-month free trial with offer code macOSKEN at copilot.money/macOSKEN. Copilot Money. Your money beautifully organized. Try 2 months free with offer code macOSKEN at copilot.money/macOSKEN. We'll start the day with software news that morphs into hardware news in a pretty big way. Drawing heavily from Mac rumors, word Monday that Apple ceded the 6 betas of iOS and iPadOS 27 to members of its developer program. Those were joined by developer betas for macOS 27 Golden Gate, watchOS 27, tvOS 27, and visionOS 27. Jumping back a couple of seeds, a solo piece from Mac Rumors says public testers got the 4th betas of all of those, visionOS not included. If you're in the public testing program, you know what to do. If you're not but wish you were, live the dream at beta.apple.com. For the more immediate and, dare I say, more important, Apple on Monday released iOS 26.6.1, iPadOS 26.6.1, and macOS Tahoe 26.6.2. Yet another piece from Mac Rumors says those 3 OS updates are security-focused, addressing over 30 vulnerabilities. Now, if you think you've already got them, probably not. The report says these are Apple's 3rd security releases in 3 weeks, as AI services bugs faster than the company's typical release schedule can handle. If you're on iOS and or iPadOS 18. whatever, same goes for you. The piece says Apple released version 18.7.10 of both of those operating systems for devices that can't make the move to blankOS 26. And there may be still more in store. A piece from 9 to 5 Mac says Apple on Monday seeded release candidates for macOS Tahoe 26.7 and macOS Sequoia 15.8. Notes for each indicate either security fixes or important security fixes. Keep an ear to the ground, your eyes peeled, and your head on a swivel for those security updates. Also, mind the spoilers. Back to Mac Rumors we go, where we find Tahoe 26.7 full of references to unreleased Apple products. We're talking references to Home Hub, an unidentified home accessory, new headphones, new iPhones, new Macs, a new headset, and that list goes on. At least some of the iPhones are expected next month. Past that, who can say? Honestly, part of me wonders what the blank happened with Monday's release candidates. A couple of hours after I wrote the part about the unannounced products, Apple Insider ran a piece that had the Tahoe 26.7 RC coughing up video. According to the report, the release candidate included a demo video showcasing AirPods with cameras. Found by code sleuth Aaron Paris and shared on the Infernal Heil site, the super short video has a guy wearing what look like normal AirPods with what sounds like a Siri voiceover saying, "With visual intelligence, your world becomes savable. See something you like? Just ask me to save it for later." Man, I am really looking forward to months and months of creep factor stories. How about you? Are we done with the software thing? No, but we could be if Apple would quit finding new soccer leagues. Difficult though it may be to believe, still another piece from Mac Rumors says Apple has updated the Apple Sports app with more football. According to the report, version 4.3 of the app adds support for additional soccer leagues, including the Austrian Bundesliga, English Women's Super League, Greek Super League, Indian Super League, Saudi Pro League, Spanish Liga F, and Turkish Super League. Still an iPhone-only thing, the Apple Sports app is available now in Apple's App Store. Apple shares got a pedal to the metal over-the-top upgrade on Monday. Barron's had Rothschild & Company Redburn analyst Tim Schultz-Melander issuing a note to start the week, going positive on the company's shares and raising his price target $140. The reason? AI is finally about to happen for Apple in the analyst's estimation, and that'll make it happen for the rest of the planet. Analysts have gone back and forth where Apple and AI are concerned. Some thought Apple did something unspeakable to the pooch by not throwing billions at AI the way Alphabet, Amazon, and others did. Others think Apple was very clever. Let everybody else spend billions, then be the hardware through which people access the AI on which others spent billions. This is where we find Schultz-Melander. Building on imported capabilities, writes the analyst, a fine-tuned suite of agentic services within the Apple ecosystem appears more likely to impress the customer. The way he sees it, Apple Intelligence is best understood as a demand and retention lever for the iPhone hardware cycle and services flywheel. Together, these are the earnings engine that Apple is built on. Putting it more simply, as the Barron's headline did, Apple could be the AI gatekeeper. Schultz-Melander raised his rating on Apple shares from neutral to buy. He also upped his firm's price target on the shares from an underwater $260 to an aspirational $400. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Coveron, a single service to protect your identity and finances. Can you keep up with the number of attempts to scam you get in a day? Between people trying to help me on LinkedIn, people trying to hire me through iMessage, and random emails wanting to grow my audience for me, attempts to scam us seem constant. I worry about the ones that work, the times people slip up or don't even realize what's happened until it's too late. That is why there's Coveron. It monitors your financial activity and lets you know when something looks wrong. And if money is taken, Coveron provides fraud insurance and recovery support, so you're not out there by yourself. Credit monitoring, dark web surveillance, identity theft recovery. Things we don't know we need until after the worst has happened. That is what Coveron brings to the table. Find out more and use code macOS for up to 76% off at coveron.com/macOS. Don't wait for the worst to happen. One scam can cost you everything. Use code macOS for up to 76% off at coveron.com/macOS. COVERON, Coveron, a single service to protect your identity and finances. Use code macOS for up to 76% off at coveron.com/macOS. Remember the story last week that had Apple sending spyware attack push notifications to recipients in 110 countries? If they had only gone to one person per country, that would have sounded big. And yet, TechCrunch has done a follow-up piece calling the number of notifications sent unprecedented. And those are just the ones we know about. Several people publicly and privately reported receiving Apple spyware alerts over the weekend, according to the report. Access Now is a digital rights group that Apple suggests victims of spyware reach out to for help. That organization's director indicates that they have received a record high number of people reaching out for help, between 30% and 40% higher than after similar blasts in the past. The latest round is said to include people who've apparently been targeted before. Meanwhile, the cybersecurity firm iVerify tells TechCrunch that it's seen a surge in threat notifications as well, apparently tied to last week's push. As recently as a year or two ago, the kinds of attacks against which Apple is warning were thought to be cost prohibitive and reserved for what one might call high-value targets. Politicians, journalists, activists, people like that. One person who said they got a notification last week is a Ukrainian soldier fighting in the war against Russia. An important person to be sure, but not the usual type of target. Times are apparently changing. A senior researcher at digital rights group Citizen Lab says the prevalence of posts about the notifications shows that such spyware attacks may be more common than we thought. According to the researcher, the scale and geographic diversity of public posts about receiving notification are pretty unprecedented. For every public notification like this, you can imagine there's a huge notification iceberg that the public will never learn about. This is a clear indication that something bigger is going on. A questionable-sounding lawsuit against Apple tied to AI, as everything seems to be. Bloomberg says the Cupertino company is being sued by a shareholder for alleged copyright violations perpetrated while training Apple's AI models. The piece has the shareholders' lawsuit arguing that Apple execs and the company's board violated their fiduciary duties and acted in bad faith by knowingly or recklessly causing the company to engage in copyright infringement. Bloomberg Law says the suit argues that Apple trained its models on datasets that included pirated books, as well as videos extracted without authorization from YouTube or the copyright of those works. For what it's worth, I personally think such charges are very serious. But this party is suing Apple execs for exposing the company to potentially massive liability and related costs and reputational damage, as well as potential loss of customers and/or claims from Apple customers who unwittingly use the copyright-infringing Apple services. A cynical sort might think the plaintiff in this case is aiming for a settlement. Thank goodness there are no cynics here. And finally today, Epic has responded to Apple's idea of a settlement conference. Shocking the planet? They're not into it. A piece from 9 to 5 Mac recaps the recent haps. Apple offered 2 proposals last week to the Court of Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers. The first covered proposed commissions for purchases made through link-outs to third-party sources outside the App Store. The second asked the judge to order the parties to attend a settlement conference. In making the request, Apple said discussions of a potential settlement in a confidential, non-adversarial setting would increase the likelihood of reaching a practical resolution that could obviate the need for prolonged remand proceedings. In its response, 9 to 5 Mac had Epic saying that while it has been and remains today willing to entertain any direct approach from Apple with a serious settlement proposal that would introduce competition and benefit all developers, Epic does not believe the prospects of such a settlement would be meaningfully advanced through referral to a settlement conference at this juncture. But, should the court order referral to a settlement conference, Epic says it will participate in good faith. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Copilot Money. Get 2 months free with code macOS Ken at copilot.money/macOS Ken. This show is also sponsored by Coveron. Safeguard your identity and save up to 76% off with code macOS at coveron.com/macOS. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOS Ken at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
It's still sunny.